Hello, everybody. Hello. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes. All right, settle down. Settle down! All right, welcome, everybody, to the Prism Files. How's it going? My name is Varys Connolly, and I'm here joined by...
Me.
And we're going to be your hosts for this afternoon.
Who said that?
So as you can clearly see, our budget has gone up by a whole $4.
Yeah.
And we have officially incorporated sound effects. Like this one.
My favorite. Digging for oil.
Wasn't that riveting?
Yeah.
So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about Zany Zooland. I hit the wrong thing.
Yes, you did. I have a key card right here.
I was hoping that was something else. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about Zany Zooland. And if you have been keeping up with the Zany Zooland series so far, you would know that it is a little comic series that I started about 2 years ago. And it started on Webtoon and has swiftly made its way over to our website, which I'm forgetting the name of. So go ahead and check the description.
Was it Bioprism Entertainment?
It's something like that. So check that description because I really can't remember what the name of the website is at the moment because we haven't used it in a little bit. But I do want to use it more in the future. But it's also available on our itch.io. So you can head over to our itch.io. It's Bioprism Studios on itch.io.
Yeah.
So make sure you head over there. I believe the website is Bioprism Studios as well now. So everything's under that label. So if you search Bioprism Studios like on Google, I'm sure you'll find it.
Link will also be in the description.
Right. So make sure to go check out all that stuff. If you're on Spotify, what do you want from us?
There's a description on Spotify. You know that, right?
Shh. They don't know that. Moving back to the subject of today's episode, this thing is fun to abuse. So
it really is.
We are here to talk about Zany Zooland. So I wanted to start at the beginning, and I want to talk about kind of the art style that went into forming the Zany Zooland style. So my art style is a mix between like Cartoon Network style cartoons and the Tim Burton style. Basically, it's like if Steven Universe met like Nightmare Before Christmas's like 2D style. And that's kind of how like my style came along, is I wanted to implement like these kind of like cartoon elements that have like these weird like kind of jarring elements to them that are a little off. You can kind of see it a lot more in like the Gene and Clark series and the Earth 2045 series. But Zany Zooland was kind of my first like tiptoe into that, into kind of making my characters a little bit more abstract. They're not really playfully designed. They're kind of like humanly proportioned animals. And it's a little jarring, especially because Cassie's like legs and arms are like unnaturally long.
I mean, looking at a cat, obviously, compared to Cassie, is very like, what the f*** am I looking at?
It's a little odd, but that's kind of like where this started. I will say that some people have also described my art style as like Looney Tunes, and like the writing and kind of what goes into it. And they're like, oh, it feels very Looney Tunes, which is funny because my stories are written very much like, oh yeah, it's like if Cartoon Network or like a Disney cartoon was a little bit more serious. The best example I can really give is like the new Puss in Boots movie that came out, The Last Wish.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It like they say like hell in it and stuff, and like the art style is very nice to look at, and it's very stylized, and the humor in it is like very adult.
Yeah, they do also say the funny F word.
Do they?
Yeah. They bleep it out, but they still say it.
Okay, well, they don't say it, but it's
heavily implied.
It's implied, I guess. But it's like the point is that like this series is supposed to kind of follow the formula of like looking child friendly, but like it's still kind of meant for like a slightly older audience.
Can I just take a moment to appreciate that one dialogue with I think they called him Burro, like the dog. where he was just like
I think it's Purito.
Purito,
Yeah,
something like that.
Purito, I believe.
I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a little bit since I've seen the movie, and I'm bad with Spanish. But he was telling his story, and what threw me off guard was he was like, "Oh yeah, I was born in a litter of puppies. No one really cared, so I just kind of did my own thing. And then one day they decided to play with me. They put me in a sock, and they was like, oh, let's test his survival. They threw me in the river.
Yeah."
But joke's on them. I got on out. Best game of hide and seek ever.
Yeah, and I got a free sweater out of it.
Yeah, and everyone's looking at him like, you poor thing.
Yeah, this dog is traumatized. But yeah, no, that that is the kind of stuff that is the kind of writing that I heavily enjoy in my own work, where it's like it's that like jarring sense of humor of like looking like a kid's cartoon, and then they say the most outlandish thing ever.
Yeah.
Originally, kind of to tie it back to the style a little bit, and we'll get to inspirations in a second. But I also originally used like the 2017 DuckTales reboot style.
Did that come out in 2017?
Yeah.
Oh.
It did. I tried to incorporate that style into my work as well because I like how like the hands looked because they were like squared off. And I thought I thought it was a very interesting style, and that's kind of how I was drawing hands at the time. And so I tried to incorporate that, and then I realized that I hated it and switched to round fingers.
Well, because it's a single stroke as compared to like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I know how to draw them now, but there are frames in the original Zany Zooland comic that look very odd because I didn't know how to really draw the fingers at different angles back then.
Oh yeah, because you drew them as like actual rectangles. I think.
And they looked flat and weird. It was very odd. But now I fixed it. So I didn't fix the comic. It still looks weird. But now I know how to draw them properly.
You know how to do better in the future.
Yeah. The only evidence of the DuckTales style that's actually still left, because I don't really use it that much anymore, is on Barley. Just because like he follows that like anthropomorphic like
bird.
Yeah, that bird style. So that Barley's kind of the only one that still uses that design philosophy nowadays.
Can't wait to talk about Barley, actually, because of his interesting anatomy.
Yes, Barley is very interesting.
Yeah.
We will talk about him in a little bit. I also began incorporating the Rayman Origins style into it.
Yeah.
Like the Ubi art style. That came a little later, but the Ubi art style is so interesting to me because it's so exaggerated. It's so normal, and then it's so not normal. Like, it's incredibly, like, it juxtaposes itself. And I love it because it's like they'll just be standing there calmly just swaying in the breeze. And then, like, something will scare them and their whole mouth turns into, like, the letter C. It's amazing. And I
always love those, too.
I know. It's such a fun style that, like, I want to use more. And I used it on, like, the Cartridge Crusader style. So if you follow Bioprism Entertainment, you'll see on our show, The Cartridge Crusaders, in the thumbnails, I will use that style.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it. It's really fun to do.
It's so much fun.
I've incorporated it into the core series of, like, the Bioprism Anthology series because it really adds a layer of, like, cartoonish exaggeration that I just love.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very happy I decided to use that.
Expression is, like, one of your strengths in terms of characters and in terms of design. Like, a lot of your stuff, like, I can always tell what a character's feeling just by looking at their eyes. And that alone, I'm like, that's better than some people that I know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I put a lot of time and effort into making sure you can tell how the character's feeling without them saying it.
Yeah.
It was a little tricky in the beginning, but I still kind of conveyed it. And then, like, as like time went on and I was designing more and more and more and more, like, facial features became like I would design like the head and then I would design the rest of the body. That's how my art style works. So I start at the head and then I go down.
I literally do the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's like a half and half. Like, some people start like maybe at the body and then they work around. I think some people maybe some people start at the feet. I don't know. But I personally start at the head, and then I work down. And I think the reason I do that is because of you.
Maybe. It might be. Because, like, in my early design process, I've always designed the head first because me, personally, I think the head is the most fascinating part of a character.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah,
I was about
because
to say the same thing.
That's where everything happens.
Yeah.
Well, that's where most things happen.
Right.
In terms of expression, in terms of personality, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like even genetics.
What people don't realize is that your body is a direct reaction of everything that happens in your head and on your face.
Yeah.
Like everything, pretty much. Like there are a few things that maybe don't, but like for the most part, for the most part, it is all from your face. Like you will make your facial reaction before you make your body reaction.
Oh yeah.
And like whatever's going on in your face will heavily dictate what's going on like with the rest of your body or even like with your emotions.
Yeah.
So it's very important to get that face correct. And that's why when I draw my faces, I try to make sure that they're able to be exaggerated. Some characters are a little difficult to exaggerate given their specific anatomy, like Barley, for instance.
Well, yeah, because he has a long beak.
He has
that
a
just kind of
beak.
pokes out his face.
Right.
So, like, in order to do shock or even anger, if you want to get that exact level of like how much you feel that from that character, you need to be able to exaggerate that mouth in just the right way.
Yeah.
In order for it to actually express anything.
Right.
Because otherwise, it's just under normal anatomy, like a toucan. You look at a toucan, you don't know what the that thing is feeling.
You don't know the secret thoughts it has day in and day out.
No, none whatsoever.
Is that head empty or is that head full and full of revenge?
Yeah,
Ready to strike.
we will never know. I love this thing.
I
I have to stop swearing.
I love toucans so much. They're such great birds.
They are so
anyway,
fun.
we're distracted. So
That's half the fun.
it's true.
Yeah.
So we're going on to the inspiration aspect of the episode. So I want to talk about kind of like
I like cats. This is excellent.
Hey guys, can we get a round of applause for the roadcaster, please? All right, knock it off. All right, so
Once again, stop. And now,
thanks for watching,
coming,
everybody. All right. So, all right, we're off track. So
I think this is going to be really weird.
this is going to be a weird episode to edit.
Yeah.
We've got a long way to go, so we need
All
to.
right. Yeah,
we
yeah,
need
yeah.
to talk.
All
So,
right, so
the inspiration behind what spawned this comic. The original true to form inspiration for the Zany Zooland comic was a web series known as Ena by Joel G. If you don't know what that series is, look it up. ENA by JOELG. Look it up. It's really good and it's very interesting. They're going to have a new like game coming out this year.
Oh, wait. Is this the Ena?
Yes.
Oh, all right. I was just about to look it up because I'm like, why does that name sound familiar, but also not?
Yeah, no, that is those Ena like animations are very abstract, and it's the animation in it is like really cool and it's very interesting, and the way the characters interact with each other is very surreal. And so originally, I wanted to make a story about a surreal world where you met characters that looked like animals but acted like humans, but had like kind of these weird little personality tropes.
Yeah.
And Cassie's original personality was that they would space out all the time. Like they were always just their eyes had this weird like effect on them where like you could tell they were spacing out. Benjamin's whole thing was like, oh yeah, he's like this teddy bear, but he smokes.
Yeah.
And like his personalities and like there was just a bunch of different things. And then I started designing characters that I just started designing more interesting characters after those two. And it kind of became its own thing after that. And that's where Zany Zooland came from.
Yeah, because you also pulled in like Darren Dog,
Yep.
Peter Polar Bear.
Yep.
You pulled in, I forget the bat's name.
Benny. Well, Benny was until a lot later.
Well, still. But you also had two rats.
Yeah, I had a mouse and a rat.
One was a mouse, my mistake.
Yeah, Minerva Mouse and Rudy Rat.
Yeah.
And then I had a raccoon and a bunny, or maybe it was a rat. No, it was Brandon Bunny, I believe.
When did Bailey come in?
And then it was Rachel Raccoon. Bailey came in when Barley did.
Okay.
But that was like what I call era 2.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of those characters that I just mentioned like a second ago got scrapped.
Oh yeah, there's like no evidence of them anywhere.
Yeah, like some of them got repurposed, some of them just got scrapped. But
Yeah.
I mean, some of the other inspirations once it kind of took its own mold was like Steven Universe, Sonic the Hedgehog, pretty obvious why. And then I put Rick and Morty in here as a probably because I think that's where like the multiverse shenanigans came in.
I'm not sure entirely.
Like the portal design was kind of inspired by a mix of Crash 4 and Rick and Morty. So that's
like with the shattering and
and then also the design of how it operates and how it looks. It was kind of a mix between those two because they're small portals, but they have like an effect in them, but they also like shatter. So it's an interesting thing where it's kind of a mix of those two ideas because I thought that like one of them felt too fragile, like too much like glass, and one of them felt too like gooey.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of want to be that medium, and I feel like that it works really well.
I agree because this feels more like it's like a scratch, just kind of like a.
Yeah, it's malleable.
Yeah.
So it's more like rock now than it is anything else. Where like it's not glass, but it's not like it's rubber glue or whatever, or like Nickelodeon gack or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like it. So that's kind of where I landed with that. When this series kind of became its own thing, it originally was a part of a much larger series. The Bioprism Anthology series, for those of you who may not know, was originally a 6-season cartoon concept.
Yep.
Where every single season there were different heroes, there were different characters, but it was all the same villain.
Yep.
And Zany Zooland was season 5, and it was one of the longest seasons that I had planned. And obviously, that is incredibly hard to pitch to anybody.
Incredibly hard.
So I had to dumb it down. But while it was still a part of that larger scope, the original story was that Cassie, if any of you have read the original comic, Cassie falls through a portal and ends up in a medieval dimension. The whole thing was we show Cassie falling through this weird like portal space in that episode. I believe it's episode 2. And then Benjamin goes through the portal but doesn't experience that space. And the whole point behind that was that Cassie experiencing that like weird portal space gave them their powers.
Yeah.
Like that was the original plot. And that's why Benjamin didn't experience it because he doesn't get powers, but Cassie does.
Correct.
And so they would save them by activating their powers and getting out of there. And Benjamin, Darren, and Peter were all originally Cassie's very close friends. And that is not the case anymore.
No, now they're all family at this point, right?
Yes. So as I mentioned, like the original story was 6 seasons, 6 different characters and realities and characters, and it was the heroes versus the Rifter, who used to be the big bad of the series.
He used to be the big bad.
And now it's come down to we have a brand new villain, and
yes,
he will be revealed in time. But the new plot is that Cassie Cat is sent to an alternate reality through a space-time rift to be tested by an interdimensional entity who we now created. His name is Soul. And Soul...
Oh, I thought it was Morgan Freeman.
Sadly, we couldn't get the rights.
Man!
But Soul...
Why are we still doing this then?
That's a good question. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode.
We should get a version of this, but just have that be March of the Bioprism.
That'd be funny.
That'd be great.
But so Soul basically summons a portal for Cassie to go through to test to see if Cassie is going to be worthy of having interdimensional powers to basically help Soul save the multiverse. That is the new plot of the series that ties into the Bioprism Anthology series as we know it in 2023. So... it's very interesting. We pulled a gumball
We pulled a gumball.
Yeah, so...
What does that... Okay, what does that mean?
So, if any of you know The Amazing World of Gumball...
I know the series, but I don't understand the analogy.
So, The Amazing World of Gumball was... You know how they had like a bunch of different art styles and stuff?
Yeah, because it was essentially a culmination.
So, yeah, so the show was originally... they had a bunch of different ideas for a bunch of different shows. None of them really got off the ground, so they put them all together into one big show called The Amazing World of Gumball.
Right.
And that's basically what happened with the Bioprism Anthology series, was we had like a bunch of different show concepts that kind of fit together with each other, but then we couldn't really make it work, so we crunched them all down into the same universe or multiverse, and now they all follow each other a lot more directly.
A lot more so than they did.
Right. So now it's all kind of this tighter story. And for those of you who have watched the Multi-Circus, you'll know of Soul. Cassie mentions Soul about halfway through the project. And the Zany Zooland comic is meant to elaborate more on the relationship between Cassie and Soul and what Soul's, part to play in this story is, and how Cassie becomes this important being in the multiverse.
One of a few.
Right. So for any of you who are like, who in the heck are these characters and why should I care? That's what Zany Zooland is about. Zany Zooland is the very beginning of this entire story. And I'm currently working on it. So it's not done yet.
Yeah.
But I will get to it. It's returning this year. So make sure to keep an eye out on my Instagram, Varys_Connolly, for when I update you about when the Itch.io gets updated so that you can go read the comic.
Yeah, but for now, look forward to Gene and Clark coming.
Yes.
What was it, May or something?
In May, yes.
Yeah.
That'll be it's releasing in about a month. It's basically done, but we're on editing passes right now.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make sure that it's as good as it can be before we release it. Also, it's a part of my senior thesis for my college, so I kind of have to wait.
Oh yeah,
a month.
Too.
So, but still, it's. I'm very excited for it to happen. But so the news story for Zany Zooland, as it goes currently,
yes,
is that after Cassie proves themselves to be worthy, they are granted the powers of the multiverse. And so Cassie enlists the help of their stepbrother, Benjamin Bear, their boyfriend, Barley Bird, and close friends Bailey Beaver and Adam Axolotl to help them find the source of the space-time rifts propping up everywhere around the multiverse, the Bioprism. So for those of you who watched the Multi-Circus, you would know what the Bioprism is. It's this weird space-time relic, as Bailey ever so delicately describes it, as a magic space triangle that has a lot of power over the multiverse and has a lot of magic stored within it. And it can be a source for good or a source for evil, depending on who is wielding it. It is in itself a source of chaos, so depending on who is holding it will depend on what happens.
Yep.
And so it's pretty important as to why we need to find this thing and give it to the right person. And so the point of the Multi-Circus was Varys, me, another version of me, and Cassie are going around the multiverse because a bunch of like rifts are popping up. So they go from dimension to dimension to dimension to dimension in a row to find the source of why these keep popping up over and over and over again, to eventually find the Bioprism. And yeah, I mean, you should just watch the Multi-Circus so I don't entirely spoil it.
Yeah, but you'll get all the context behind Zany Zooland.
Right, because Zany Zooland's comic series is basically, it's an episodic story with an overarching plot, where every episode a rift appears, the friends go to that alternate universe to figure out what is causing the issues in that universe that's causing the space-time rift to happen. They fix the issue, and then they go home. That is basically that's the basic kind of synopsis for Zany Zooland.
Yeah.
So the Multi-Circus, you can almost look at it as basically Zany Zooland the movie, because it is taking that episodic nature but it's making it more frantic, and it's like over and over and over and over and over again. And so because it happens like so many times in a row, and it's like a big adventure. It's like a bigger version of Zany Zooland, essentially. And it all culminates into finding the Bioprism, which they heard about in Zany Zooland. That might be the potential problem for why it's happening, but they can never find it, and then they find it. And watch the multi-circus to figure out what happens.
I didn't realize this was going to be Zany Zooland and the multi-circus episode.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to talk about with the multi-circus, so we will be saving that for probably the next episode. So if you guys want to tune in to the next episode to hear more about the multi-circus, please do.
Yes, please. Please.
Something that's very interesting. Please do it.
This podcast went downhill.
You guys fell off. So anyway,
thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, guys. We'll catch you later in the next. So
okay, I'm done.
Basically, something that's very interesting about this series is that I am telling it very heavily out of order, which isn't entirely on purpose, but also isn't entirely not on purpose. The nature of this series is very heavily in the you watch a story and then you watch another one and it's from a completely different point in time.
Right.
And you kind of get a semblance of what the timeline is like from watching all of these projects. And eventually, when all of the stories are released and you can just watch them in order, it'll be a nice cohesive story that you can just watch or read, and it'll be kind of a nice satisfying story. But for now, because it's kind of being told in pieces in different areas, it's a very unique circumstance for a lot of people right now where it's like, yeah, you watch the multi-circus and it's like, okay, what is all this stuff? Who are all these characters? Oh, okay, well, here's the prequel comic, Zany Zooland, to kind of explain all of that. Okay, well, here's Earth 2045 to tie us from the multi-circus to Gene and Clark. And it's kind of this interesting situation where, like, all of these different stories get told at these different times where you kind of learn about the characters, and there's context from those projects that happen later down the timeline that help provide for the ones in the past. It's this weird, like, game that I'm playing where it's like I develop a story in the future and then I use that as a basis to develop the past. And I think that it's interesting. I think it's a fun way to do it because it actually gives way for a lot of very cool and interesting storytelling elements.
It can.
Yeah. I don't know. There's nothing. I don't know. I don't know where to go with that. I think it's interesting.
I have no idea. Let's talk business.
Oh, my God.
So this thing is excellent.
It is amazing. So I wasn't sure if we'll talk about it. Yeah. So
yeah.
Something that I kind of want to talk about a little bit is the characters. Yeah.
No, they're great.
Yeah. Like, I love these characters a lot. I think that they're, very involved, and I think a lot of them are like, they feel real. Like, a lot of comments I've gotten about my writing is that it's like, oh, it feels very real. Like, these feel like real conversations between real people.
Yeah.
And I love that because that was the end goal with these projects, was to make sure that they feel like real people.
I mean, that's also the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to have your stories with characters who actually feel like they're legitimately having a moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise, if they don't, then why?
Yeah, why?
Just why?
Why?
I don't want to see this man just walk up to a man, stab him, and go ha ha, and nothing else.
Yeah, it's like, that's boring.
I want to see someone suffer.
I want traumatized characters. Your wish is my command. So let's get into it. So the first character we have is Cassie Cat. I know, right? Stop it.
Oh, he's great.
So we have Cassie Cat. Shut up! So the first episode No, it's fine. I'm kidding. So the first character we have is Cassie Cat. They use they them pronouns. They are an energetic 13-year-old like empathy-based character. They have a really big heart, and they are the adopted child of Darren Dog and Peter Poehler.
Yep.
We have this amazing source for good that just patrols the multiverse. And I guess the thing that I love the most about this series in general is that I've said this before, there is no destiny in this universe or this multiverse.
No.
In the sense that, like, we could have gotten anybody to do this. Like, anybody could have been in Cassie's shoes.
Oh, yeah.
But it just happened to be Cassie.
Yep.
Like, there are reasons as to why it happened. It's not like I'm just like, oh, yeah, no, it was random. No, there's reasons, but it wasn't like fate.
It wasn't like, you were chosen by gods in order to do this one task. It's like, no.
Yeah, no, it was just like there's
all the
history.
dominoes fell where they fell, and you happened to be in the way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I love about this series is that it's like, yeah, Jean and Clark, like, happened to be in the universe where Altered exist.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, so it's just these characters that just were living their everyday lives, and all of a sudden, here they are, and now they're saving the multiverse, and they become like heroes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We can stand to learn a thing or two from them.
Exactly. And I mean, every hero has to have an ensemble.
Of course.
Of fun, lovable side characters. We got Benjamin Bear, Cassie's 20-year-old stepbrother. He used to smoke, as you can see in the original comic. I'm going to have him give it up, not only for Cassie's health and his own, but also because he ends up becoming a nurse.
Yep.
Mainly for his team during the comics, but also later in life, Benjamin does end up becoming like a nurse. That is canon.
Yeah.
So like they obviously have to stop smoking.
Yeah, of course. And massive respect for Benjamin Bear.
Yeah,
like, come
massive
on.
Respect.
That is not an easy job.
No, it is not.
Good for this guy.
And they are the donor baby of Darren Dog and Peter Poehler. You can take a guess on who provided for that one.
Donor baby? What is a donor baby in this context?
Basically, so Darren and Peter are both males. Mm-hmm. Darren is a cross-dressing dog, and Peter is just a
polar bear.
A polar bear in shorts.
The most epic kind of polar bear.
The most epic kind of polar bear. And basically, so they're together and they're a couple, but they can't produce a baby on their own because they're both male.
Right.
So they had to get a donor egg. So they had to have a donor basically give them an egg so that they could produce Benjamin.
Right. Well, they needed a surrogate, I'm assuming.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. So you can take a guess on who provided the essence for Benjamin. The bear did. And yeah.
It was Yogi.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were
it was weird.
that was one eventful picnic. All right. Anyway,
I don't know. That one didn't feel right for that one.
That was the point. So
that was a weird picnic. All right, Dan, cut this part out. All
right. So the next character,
leave that part in.
Yes.
Okay.
So the next character we have up on the docket is Barley Bird.
Barley Bird.
Barley Bird.
Bird.
Barley is the son of a parrot and a penguin with none of the evolutionary benefits of either one.
No. Well, hold on. No, we established that Barley can keep warm because their feathers are tight and they're water resistant, but they can't swim.
No,
He can't swim.
Yeah, Barley can't swim very well.
I'm bad with pronouns.
It's okay. But Barley can't swim very well. Like, they're better than most birds, other than penguins, but they're better than most birds.
Better at swimming than a parrot, but worse at swimming than a penguin.
Yes. So just kind of average at swimming. But they're very water resistant.
Yes.
And their feathers are more compact. They also deal with psychosis and OCD related mental health issues.
Yep.
That was something that I kind of wanted to incorporate into their character because I thought it was kind of important to be – I wanted inclusivity in this, and I wanted a lot of these characters to have different personality traits and different representation. And for Barley, I was like, I feel like it'd be very interesting if you have this side to this character where like they are in charge of helping to fix the multiverse.
Yeah.
But they're also like a hair trigger away from like snapping.
Yep.
Like mentally. So it produces this interesting dynamic of like Cassie needing to like help Barley through everything, where it's like, oh, you know, like let's calm down, let's figure this out, let's this, and like Barley's constantly like dissociating, and it's this whole thing. But like they're still a very, very good asset to the team, but it creates this dynamic between like, should Barley be going on these adventures or not, which is actually something that we cover in the comic later on.
Yeah.
But yes, to speak more to Barley's abilities, like they're a strategic like wizard and a planner extraordinaire. So they're very good at like kind of seeing all the angles, and they're very good at like planning things, and they're very good at like making like, you know, just like, oh, like this has this and this has this and this has this, so we should do this, or we should do this. And I remember like I think I had an episode where they all get captured, and it's like this never would have happened if Barley was here. It's like, okay, but you know, Barley couldn't be here because of their psychosis, and it's
one of their cooldown days.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's this whole, and building up this thing where it's like you create all the characters, you create all the rules and stuff, and then you write stories based around those characters and those rules. That is how I kind of try to make these worlds, because it makes it feel more real. Because like, yes, there are parts about the world that are cut and dry, but if you build the characters first, then you can start writing the stories and developing the world around that, and to kind of like fit situations that would be good for the story. And that's kind of how you want to do that.
Yeah.
I also Bailey and Barley both work at like a Savers, basically. Like,
wait, what?
So Barley and Bailey work together.
Yeah, I knew that.
At a job. And their job is they basically work at like a Savers. And that Savers is run by Benny Bat, who is amazing. But we'll get to Benny in a second.
Okay.
So then we want to move on to Bailey Beaver. 17-year-old sentimental gamer is what I wrote down.
Oh, yeah, gamer.
Bailey is a gamer. So Bailey is like...
Are you winning, son?
Are you winning? Are you winning? Yeah. So she spent most of her youth online, like playing like Flash games and being on like web forums and stuff.
Epic.
And she plays a lot of video games. She was very, very, very introverted. But then when Barley and Cassie came along... she became a lot more extroverted, a lot more confident in herself, and she became like the team muscle, and like very excitable and very like happy to be just involved.
Oh yeah.
And she's just super happy to be there. Again, she worked with Barley at that store.
No, yeah, they work together. They're like the dynamic duo.
Yeah.
Yesterday was also International Beaver Day.
Was it?
It was.
That's so that was April 7th.
April 7th was International Beaver Day.
I also find it hilarious that
needs to be her birthday.
Barley, that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Barley is a bird that cannot fly or swim very well, and Bailey is a beaver with braces.
Yeah.
And is also like unnaturally tall.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I love this dynamic of these two characters, because they're both evolutionarily like
flawed.
And I love them both dearly, and they prove themselves to be very valuable people, but they are fundamentally flawed.
Yeah.
That's what I love about these characters, is that they're all kind of like off. Like Benjamin doesn't really sleep that much, and he like smokes, and like he's not very lazy at all either. Like he's very active, and he's very gentle, which is like not what a bear is.
Well, yeah.
So, right. You know, like we've made this like connection in our worlds that they are, but they're really not. like in real life, they're not. And like Cassie is a cat that like
just about to say Cassie. Yeah.
like Cassie is a cat that loves to swim and never lands on their feet.
Yep.
It's like like
Anytime Cassie falls, doesn't matter if it's 2 feet high, 200 feet high, lands on their ass.
yeah, like on their face, on their butt, like
Anywhere but their feet.
yes. And it's funny.
Not even on their hands, because that still counts.
Well, there's something interesting that Cassie can run on all fours,
Which is awesome.
which is awesome. Bailey can too, actually. Bailey kind of has to, because otherwise Bailey would be very slow.
Well, yeah, because Bailey has like really the equivalent of really short legs, but a really long torso.
Yeah, exactly.
So like her proportions, she would run as fast as a penguin.
Yeah, she basically has MC Hammer pants on permanently.
But it's just her legs.
It's just her legs. So we want to move on to
Adam time.
That didn't work. All right.
Anyway, yeah.
So Adam Axolotl. I know.
One of the greatest.
Adam Axolotl is a 13-year-old program whiz and with vitiligo and a very quiet personality and an exact memory recall. So that was a lot of adjectives.
Yeah, I didn't even follow all of them.
So he's very technically savvy.
Yeah.
And he has a condition where most axolotls in real life change from pink to black as they age.
Yeah.
It's this very fascinating thing that happens with them. So the vitiligo aspect with axolotls specifically in this universe is they don't change completely. They're still like kind of pink, and they're kind of like they have some pink still when they grow up, and it's never going to go away. It's always there.
Yeah.
And that's, I think Adam's dad also has that, and Adam's mom didn't have that, but unfortunately she is deceased. So
sad day.
yeah. So Adam also speaks in the third person. The reason I gave for this was because Adam doesn't like talking about themselves. So when they speak about themselves in the third person, it's almost as if they're talking about somebody else. So it's easier for them to compliment themselves because they can be like, oh, Adam is a very good driver. But they're just referring to themselves. But it's this weird thing where, like, because they're so quiet and they're kind of anxious, they don't like talking about themselves. So they use the third person as that medium. And I kind of like that lore point, which is something that I just did it as kind of like a fun little thing where, like, yeah, Adam just speaks in the third person.
Yeah.
But then I remember, I think you provided that, or one of us provided that idea. And I was like, oh, that's such a good idea. Like, we should keep that. And I feel like that it's something that I want to play with more because I don't want it to be obnoxious, but I also want it to be something that he kind of works through.
No, yeah,
as
I
the
agree
series
with you.
goes on.
I think I might have asked you, like, why does Adam do this?
Yeah.
And that's when you came up with the idea of, oh, this is why.
Yeah.
So I think I pegged for information, and
I delivered.
Yes. That. Sorry, I'm a little hoarse.
So, well, could you be a big donkey instead?
I don't want to be an.
So, I also made it.
Why is nobody laughing? Stop digging for oil. Why is it always this one?
Because it's funny. In the wise words of George Washington, where's the bathroom? I have to take a poop. So
Hunt for vampires.
So anyway, Cassie and Adam have been friends since they were like 4 years old. I have like a really cute story I want to tell with that in one of the comics where like Cassie goes to like Adam's birthday and it's like the first time Adam smiles ever.
Aww.
And it's really, really nice. Adam also has a really hard time smiling, which is why I designed his mouth to be so like wide. Because like he'll be like this. I know you can't see it. people who are listening, but like they basically
it'll look awkward and look like forced.
Yeah, it looks like extreme. Like imagine if like Wednesday Addams tried to like smile when somebody asked her to.
Yeah, it's just all teeth and it just looks like a snarl as opposed to as opposed to a smile.
Yeah, it looks like they're gritting their teeth. It's like the gritting teeth emoji.
Yeah, it's like the cringe emoji.
Yeah. That is what it looks like. Adam is also just a very, very, very good driver with a 0 crash/scratch record.
Yeah.
And I think that's hilarious because...
But the speeding tickets...
Well, his dad's a cop, which is interesting, so he kind of knows how to, like, play the system a little bit, where it's like, I can go fast here, I can't go fast here. And, like, Adam's just, like, a very talented driver.
He understands the police.
It's true. And also, no one's going to stop him from driving, even though he's 13, because his dad's a cop. And also, he's so good at it that they kind of pardoned him for it. Where they're like...
So the whole police system's like, oh, your dad's a cop, you're cool.
They're like...
It's like, what? What's his dad, the chief of police?
That child is driving a car. Oh, wait. No. That's Axel's kid. All right, never mind. Like...
That's Axel's kid.
Yeah, so it's like, that's kind of like... He kind of gets like a pass because his dad's a cop, and also he has literally never crashed. And he never will. So that's kind of... It's
so everyone's
funny.
like, all right,
they're like,
whatever.
Yeah, all right, fine.
He's been driving since he was 5 years old.
Yeah. So to kind of round out these characters, we have Benny Bat, who is I describe her as a quote-unquote kick-ass 40-year-old who runs a Savers type store and is Barley and Bailey's boss. And she's basically like their like sassy aunt.
Like the only other parental guardian.
Like kind of like
kind.
Yeah, kind of like a parental guardian of such, where it's like she will defend them as if like they are her children.
Which I can mad respect for.
Like I love that. Like if you guys know, like, I don't know, kind of like Ida from the Owl House type vibes.
That's the witch. Right?
Yeah, that's
okay.
like the and that's kind of where I went with that, where it's like she's very, very like Ida is very wild, so it's like a version of Ida that's like very protective, but it's like same type of personality. So kind of like more towards the end of the series, but that's kind of where Benny comes in, and she like helps out where she can, and she's just kind of like a fun side character that like became a little bit more important than I thought she was going to be. So it was just, and her design's really fun too.
Oh, yeah.
So
I remember seeing her design, and I was like, oh, I love this character.
Yeah, it's great. And she can fly, too.
Well, yeah, because she's a bat.
I know.
Yeah.
But Barley's a bird and can't.
Well, yeah, because he's half penguin, obviously.
So, but yeah, that is Zany Zooland. We hope that you all enjoyed this episode of us kind of dissecting one of our biggest stories that we have.
One of them.
The next episode, I think we're going to talk about the multi-circus next. Either that or Mousetrap. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But make sure you stay tuned to figure out which one we end up talking about. So make sure you subscribe to Bioprism Studios. Follow us on Spotify. I thought we were everywhere else. We might not be.
Oh, okay.
For streaming services. So I think we're currently just on Spotify and YouTube. So make sure to check us out there. And
check us out on the coolest places.
Check us out. Those are the coolest places.
Yes.
So anyway, thanks guys. Thanks so much for joining us. But no, seriously, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it, and we will see you all in the next episode of the Prism Files.
Yes. Goodbye. That's stupid sound. Adios, muchachos. You.